Bonjour. So I agree with Link Byfield that history is very important in order to understand politics and political movements. Link was talking about the Hudson Bay Company. One of the founders of the Hudson Bay Company, Pierre Esprit Radisson, is one of my personal heroes. And if I had more time, I could tell you why, but just a quick snapshot. He had to get, him and other fur trader had to get the green light from the governor in order to be allowed to leave Ville-Marie. And so he went, to see the governor, and the governor said, "No, you can't go." And he said, "Well, you know what? No governor and no king will tell me where I should go." Then he was put in jail for 3 months. But after that, he left and actually founded the Hudson Bay Company. So it's a nice spirit that I hope we can recapture. What is the most distinguishing characteristic of Quebec conservatism? My answer, I just don't know. But that being said, I think a characteristic of the political right in Quebec, whether at the provincial level or federal level, is that it has not been able to develop a discourse related to the issue of language and identity that is really appealing to something else than just the special interest group approach. I mean by that I remain convinced that it could be possible to appeal to Quebec's French-Canadian nationalism without going into the approach of what special privilege do you guys need? How much more cash should we Anglo give you in order to buy your vote and make you happy? It doesn't have to be that way. Historically, as I said, the French-Canadian fur traders and adventurers discovered big chunks of Canada and of the US, and they didn't ask for any subsidy or any help. Based on the historical records that we have of those guys, it can be said that 90% of them would have voted for a libertarian version of the Conservative Party. I say that that spirit is still present in Quebec today. I'm not saying by any means that this still represents 90% of Quebec voters. I'm just saying it's still present. My gut feeling, but also based on a whole bunch of polls, tells me that there's anywhere between 30 to 35% of voters in Quebec who would still react positively to, praises of the past of Quebec combined with a vision of what it can mean for the future. Over the last 6 years, I have delivered many speeches on the theme of self-reliance and individual liberty as being the very part of the fabric of Quebec identity and history. I have done them in all regions of Quebec and to the various types of audience. Almost invariably, it ends with a standing ovation. If you like when and then I'm going to make a parallel, just sort of English Canada or the federal government trying to speak, to Quebec. I'm going to make a parallel with, a spouse, husband relationship. If it was in any other audience, what I'm going to say could be considered as being improper or sexist, but here I hope it will fly. You can try to be nice to your wife or convince her to be nice to you by buying her a Louis Vuitton bags or paying her, a nice trip to a nice expensive spa. But you can also tell her, and you can also win brownie points just by saying that you love her. And actually, political relationship is as emotional and as irrational as love relationship. So you want 30 to 35% of voters, of the conservative voters of Quebec to actually vote conservative. You must bring back a nationalist discourse which is pre-1960. I repeat, pre-1960, because the post-1960 nationalist speech is totally dominated by a notion of saying notre part du butin, our share of the treasure chest. That latter approach will neither work in Quebec, because it will never be enough, and I repeat, it will not work in any other parts of Canada because it will be considered as being too much. So either way, it's a dead hand, and I think we've seen a bit of that. On the contrary, a good I love you combined with sort of poetic and, historical references to Quebec past and values, might just do it for the future. Thank you very much.